What is up, guys? It is Styx here, and today we're going to be going over the character lore and story for Helhest. For those unaware, Helhest is a new character in Destiny Rising, highly connected to the Iron Lord Felwinter. She herself is someone who is constantly planning and thinking about her future moves while also working to analyze information and complete assignments for Lord Felwinter. She is also notably a huge nerd, especially compared to Wolf. But the question here is, who is she as a guardian, and who was she beforehand? I plan to explain that to you today. Spoilers for the Helhest Story Quests in Destiny Rising if you haven't done it. If you do have her, I recommend running through them first. I personally enjoyed it. Now, starting with her story quest, we get a message from Scory about Felwinter and his tech officer meeting us. We learn here that Felwinter is obsessed with technology, and due to Radagast's avoidance, Wolf is sent in his place. We learn that Helhest, Felwinter's tech officer, is investigating something that she has tracked down near Haven, but the range of the signal is too large to check out alone, so she recruits the help of Haven for this task. We get a sort of tutorial for Helhest's abilities while she hunts down the signal in areas very similar to the start of the campaign when Wolf was first resurrected, some old city ruins, where she finds something quite interesting, an escape pod. This escape pod originates from somewhere in the asteroid belt, and its mothership belongs to a race known as the Awoken. Some unknown device was planted into this pod and ejected, but the device is nowhere to be found, so continues her search. The signal gets stronger as Helhest delves deeper, making her way through traps and defenses built in the area, before finally claiming the device. She decides to take it to Donovan as she and Grom can't crack it on their own, Grom being her ghost. Donovan reveals that this device was a virtual consciousness of sorts, a fully functional living mind that is now broken. He can repair it, but needs some time, and will contact her when he's made progress. Once Donovan contacts her about the progress, he informs her that the device is mostly repaired, but the damage caused some irreversible data loss. She needs to find a way to restore this corrupted data if she wants the information within, but it is still technically operational, so she heads over to the Haven archives to see what she can learn from it in its present state. Helhest awakens an awoken girl, who may look familiar to some previous Destiny fans. She speaks as if Helhest has come to kill her, but soon understands the situation and shares that she is an individual who is known as the White Queen. She is a member of a faction known as the Outreachers, who belong to the Reef, an awoken civilization. The Outreachers wish to share their advanced technology with Earth in its fight against the forces of the universe, but she reveals that her goal was in fact the opposite of the true Queen of the Reef's faction, which is the Isolationists, and opt for, as you would guess, isolation, which led to an eventual assassination attempt and the need to flee to Earth, where she was found by Helhest. The White Queen tells Helhest that she needs to find the mother ship, so Helhest is sent to the Jiangxi Metro Aeronautics campus to track the flight path. Here, Helhest finds out that the mothership crashed near Felwinter Peak, and she decides to tell Lord Felwinter about her findings. In the next quest, the White Queen, which is quite a bit shorter, she speaks with Felwinter. This conversation tells us quite a bit about each of their characters, as Felwinter's skepticism is extremely clear about the White Queen, telling Helhest that this is very akin to some kind of fairy tale, and to be very careful, yet he also extends a great deal of trust to Helhest. It also tells us of Helhest's strong values and her resolve to combine the forces of humanity at seemingly any cost. Helhest informs Felwinter of the coordinates and learns that they match the exact site that she was found in years ago when she first became a Risen, or a Guardian. We then begin the next story quest, Retrace. Helhest heads to Felwinter Peak, which is our first time seeing it since Rise of Iron, and boy does it look like they're going to use it again. I do hope they do. You hear some cool voice lines from each of the acting Iron Lords that are available there, and finally find the necessary data, but Grom is hesitant for Helhest to see it. Helhest takes it back to the archives and plays the found recording, and it's there that she learns something crucial about her past self before becoming a Guardian. It is revealed that Helhest was once a Crow, an assassin serving the Awoken Queen, who was originally sent to hunt down and assassinate the White Queen. Helhest's resolve is once again present here. She's assured in her goal and believes that herself and the individual in the recording are different people. She then restores some of the White Queen's memories using this data despite the risk to their relationship, and is informed that the White Queen knew from the beginning, which was the reason for the confusion about asking if Helhest had come to kill her. It's pretty hinted here that the disposition of this White Queen is pretty cold and calculating, almost distant, not too dissimilar to the Awoken Queen, Mara Sov. The White Queen wishes to summon her faction, the Outreachers, to Haven to work together, but Helhest's authority is limited here. She has to meet with the Iron Lords and do a vote to decide what should be done. Helhest shows the present Iron Lords, those being Saladin, Felwinter, and Radagast, the recording. While plenty of skepticism about the true goal of the White Queen is discussed, Helhest voices her trust in the White Queen, and Lord Felwinter conveys his own trust in Helhest. Lord Saladin affirms his stance in skepticism, citing his responsibility to protect Viridia from the potential civil conflict that might be brought by the Outreachers and the Isolationists. Radagast states that while he cannot trust the White Queen, he still believes that Helhest's line of thinking is correct and it's a necessary course of action, voicing his support. After the meeting, Felwinter opens up about his reasoning for trusting Helhest, stating that at one point, a human had asked him why he would not use his intelligence and technology to save others, and how he sees that responsibility and willingness to help humanity in Helhest now. In the next story quest, Resolve, Helhest goes to Donovan to send a signal to the Outreachers. He sends her to the Shifting Gates to set up a powerful signal, to set up a powerful relay of sorts to send the signal. This is where we learn that Mara Sov doesn't quite have the staunch opinion that the Isolationists think of her. The White Queen herself tells us that Mara is in fact neutral. Once the relay is set up, Helhest goes back to Donovan's lab and then sends the signal. This attracts the attention of the Awoken Queen, who projects herself into the lab and warns Helhest that she has been watched by Mara and her crows this entire time. Mara admits that she is curious to see whether this broken planet can truly join hands whilst humanity is nearly wiped out. This leads us into the final quest, which is the Crows. After this tense moment with Mara Sov, Helhest visits the White Queen, who has been fully repaired and restored. The White Queen informs Helhest that the Outreachers have been contacted and that the White Queen will soon be taken away. She also informs Helhest that it wasn't Mara herself who ordered the hit, but rather the Crows acting on their own. She then implies that she and Mara are similar due to her being a part of Mara Sov in a sense that she has become a rogue mind of sorts. The Crows will continue watching Helhest, as Mara Sov waits to see where the new chess pieces in this cosmic game fall on the board. Overall, I thought this character story was really interesting. We got to learn a lot about the Destiny Rising renditions of these characters, and I think this plays really well into Helhest's diary, which I will be reading out each entry and then my thoughts on it. If you've enjoyed up to this point, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitch at the top of my description. First, we have Records. Felwinter Peak Central Archives Application Records. Requester, Helhest. Applications. Visitor Application, Internal Archives, Approved. Documentation Checkout Application. Reef International Day, Bound Edition, Returned. Visitor Application, International Archives, Approved. Document Checkout Application. Reports from the Reef related to political assassinations and trial records, returned. Visitor application, rejected by Felwinter. 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 Visitor application, approved. Document checkout application, analysis of global assassin organizations' operating methods, including reports tracking modern underground networks, pending return. Document return application, analysis of global assassin organizations' operating methods, including reports tracking modern underground networks, returned by Grom. Visitor application, Central Archives, approved. Note, allow partial access, noted by Felwinter. Document checkout application, Central Archives, Felwinter Peak personnel documents, returned. Document checkout application, Central Archives, redacted, returned. Document checkout application, Central Archives, redacted, returned. This diary entry is pretty simple, just in the fact that it's basically just listing out a bunch of information for us. It seems that Helhest had been repeatedly requesting to access any reports she could get her hands on related to the operational assassin organizations in the Reef, likely trying to find information about either her own past or the Crows themselves. This seems to have been initially rejected by Lord Felwinter as she got closer and closer to this information, until it was eventually approved with partial access after many different attempts. Now, in Caretaking, A regular examination record brought back from Helhest's personal lab, Luna. The left wing's frame is prone to accumulating dust, resulting in partial flight trajectory deviation. Replacing the carbon fiber kit has reduced cleaning frequency. I discussed the possibility of installing a navigation function with Donovan. His eyes lit up, and he demanded I leave Luna with him for a while. The look on his face was concerning, so I found a way to politely decline. Nova. Electromagnetic noise has been appearing with greater frequency recently. Attempts at cutting and restarting the internal circuitry have yielded no noticeable results. Bassinet suggested I place Nova and Flux at two ends of the lab while performing maintenance. Sure enough, it turns out Flux's weak electromagnetic signal was impacting Nova. I now understand why Caber doesn't want his meerkat around Haven's cats. Flux. Actually, I'd prefer a smaller frame. I've tried swapping electromagnetic emitter models to adjust the body, but all of them affect Flux's functions to some degree. I have no choice but to accept his current size. However, this prevents me from taking Flux out with me sometimes, and that often means coming home to find he's made a mess of my communication device's signals. Oculus. Personally, I find it quite redundant to install similar functions with high overlap on different drones. Given both are, to some extent, capable of projecting holograms, I asked Grom if I could simply integrate Oculus into her shell. She went silent for a moment, then refused, saying, "I'm a ghost, not a hermit crab." An interesting statement, I think. Or was she telling a joke? Surge. This is the only one I can be at ease with. I don't bring him out, and I don't need him to fight or anything. He just needs to guard my residence. He never fails to live up to my expectations. I can find evidence of him roaming in every corner of the home. I must commend the inventor of the robo-vacuum. They truly are one of the greatest minds this world has ever seen. Despite the simple nature of this diary entry, I think this gives us a good amount of insight into Helhest's personality and the way that she sees her drones. It seems like her affection for them seems to imply some kind of caring for them, almost like someone would pets, rather than them just being tools or needing to have a high combat efficiency of some kind. But we definitely do still see that she is very efficiency-minded with them. She wants them to operate in a specific way, but at the same time tolerates their weaknesses and tries her best to accommodate for them, like one would if they had a bunch of different animals in their house. Old dream. When she entered, I was sitting in front of the hearth, lost in thought. She placed the lamp on the table, then lowered her head, sizing up the meal placed there. Bright days were a rarity in the Reef. Despite my feelings as though this were one of those rare days, she still carried that strange light with her. It remained turned on, its pale glow ensuring the meager foods on the plates were in full view. "Shouldn't you eat something a little more, I don't know, substantial?" she asked with a laugh. Substantial, I heard myself question. Why? She was clearly right before me as she spoke, and I could see her lips forming the words, yet her voice came at me from all sides. "To celebrate," she said. Celebration. I seemed to understand. We were celebrating my departure from this place. But once I left, where would I go? She was still picking at the food with a somewhat exasperated look on her face. "Be sure to trim the roots and stems next time you cook these, and you can't put fish into the pot without removing the scales. You should learn to cook after yourself, you know." "Look after myself?" I asked her. "Where will you go?" "Look after myself?" I asked her. "Where will you go?" She stopped for a moment, stunned, then put down her cutlery. "They only chose you. As for me, I don't know. Maybe I'll seek refuge with someone else. There will always be a place for me to rest." The conversation, messy logic and all, continued. I asked her, "Do you think we can change things here?" "Here?" She smiled as she made a small circular gesture in reference to the room. "You're not only changing things here, Corella." Her hand stayed in the air, this time drawing a bigger circle. "You're going to change the whole Reef." I repeated what she'd said, my voice a near whisper. "Change the whole Reef." She didn't respond, so I turned my gaze to the window. Time flows faster than I'd imagined. Just before the light of the second dawn could peek through, she called to me. "Corella, Corella, look at me," she said. Buzzing echoed through my head. She was sitting in front of the window, back facing the light. I couldn't make out her face, but I could see her lips opening and closing. "The Queen believes in you, values you. Follow her, and you'll find what you're looking for. Don't rely on me anymore. Don't think of me anymore. Don't..." What she said afterward was unclear. I seemed to have opened my mouth, but I couldn't hear my voice through the sharp ringing piercing my ears. I reached out to grab her. and the surrounding scenery flew away. Corella. Helhest. My eyes flew open, and I sat up in my bed. When I rose and took a seat before the table, Grom hastily hovered back and forth behind me, asking if I was alright. I didn't know how to answer her. The cold sweat drenching my skin and the rapid beating of my heart told me this was something terrible. But I had to record this dream. I had to record every word, every sentence, before I forgot them all. This gives an interesting look into what may be Helhest's first life as a crow. She was chosen for something, likely to join the organization of crows, and her name was Corella. It sticks with her through this dream, even driving her to the extent of compelling her to write everything down so she'd never forget. And she likely never will. Maybe we'll find out more about this later, or maybe it'll continue to stay a mystery that we can only theorize about. Either way, I think it's extremely interesting. Next, we have news. An article has been printed out. With its unprofessionally sensationalist tone, it has clearly come from a commercial site of no real repute. But it's been carefully folded and tucked into the diary anyway. Heavy blow dealt to Outreachers, suspicion surrounding leader's bizarre death cleared. Crow's shadow looms, power vacuum triggers regional unrest. In recent days, the Outreachers, a faction that has long stood in opposition to Queen Marasov, has suddenly fallen silent. Their leader, codenamed the White Queen, was found dead at Exile Shore. The deceased's encrypted communication device and biological traces left at the scene strongly point to this being a targeted hit carried out by the agents known as the Crows. Mysterious death extinguishes rising political star. Internal documents indicate the White Queen, whose real name and identity are unknown, established the Reef's Outreachers 1 year ago with the goal of contacting civilizations on Earth. Within just 6 months, they recruited over 300 Awoken and seized the southern Reef as their stronghold. Their rapid expansion has clearly garnered the attention of the Reef's largest power, the Isolationists, led by Marasov, who even gave immediate orders to assassinate the White Queen and eliminate the Outreachers. Note, one of our sources claims that when the White Queen first appeared, Marasov's orders were to bring her back. Our insider has yet to divulge why such an order was changed to the assassination we've seen unfold. On the day of the incident, the White Queen's body was discovered on the rocks in the northern reaches of Exile Shore. Autopsy reports state a bullet hole was found in the deceased's skull, and investigators found a titanium alloy shell bearing an image of a crow. Iconography associated with the weapons of the Crows, the Awoken spy network under Marasov's command, at the scene. Investigators revealed to us that within 48 hours of the White Queen's death, they found several members of the Outreachers dead at their southeastern base. The composite tactic of culling the leader and pulling out the roots is a classic strategy employed by the Crows. Following the White Queen's death, the Outreachers logically should have disbanded or fallen into chaos. But strangely, we have yet to receive any news of key members' movements or conflict within their ranks, and satellites have detected no travel by registered spacecrafts. The Outreachers seem to have gone completely silent overnight. As of the time of this article's publishing, this assassination is still shrouded in mystery, and the future of the Reef's power struggle remains unknown. This one speaks for itself, with little insight on Helhest's own thoughts. It's a sensationalist article that goes over the odd circumstance that we learn about in the story over the White Queen's apparent death, along with the events we see occur before and I assume partially after Helhest's death and resurrection. I think anything we could take away from this is that Helhest attaches a lot of importance to this event, even keeping such a sensationalist and inflammatory article tucked away in her diary. Traces. I followed the coordinates, and they brought me back here. Felwinter Peak seldom sees visitors. With nobody cleaning the wilds here, one can still see traces of a battle, but time, amusingly fair to all, had blurred them. Grom swayed gently in the air, but didn't say a word. She just silently followed behind me. I found that ship on the cliffside, its remains lying helplessly in the center of the battlefield, covered in bullet holes, dirt, and long dried blood stains that made it nothing more than a silent signal. The first bullet's path burst out from the mess of footprints, the shell buried in the nearby dirt. That was a warning shot. Those identical footprints left by uniformed boots dragged and stomped into the earth, hinting at a suddenly disrupted formation. They are steady and light, with the center of gravity focused on the forefoot, steps made in perfect silence, the hallmark of on-duty operatives. The second trace of the shot fired was a fallen shell, encased in dried, crackled blood. The sands had worn away the insignia on it, leaving only a black wing and a single claw visible. Old pieces of uniforms were curled up in blood, pieces of pitch-black armor, shards of silver metal, scraps of crow wing-like cloaks. They had all fallen and rolled to rest alongside the shell casings, like a densely packed series of scars. A pair of footprints stood at one of the bullet trail's origin. I had tried adjusting my point of view until the sets of prints lined up perfectly. Across the wreckage of the ship before me was a bloodstain trailing downwards, as if dragged. Someone suffering a grave wound had collapsed to the ground, likely unable to move, and left a dark brown stain in the indentation. I stood with my own feet on the footprints and pointed a finger at the indentation in a silent standoff, till I could hear a muffled, distant gunshot ring in my ear. All returned to silence again as I looked back at the disturbed earth. Something heavy had fallen there. Brom, knowing what I was thinking, flashed her eye. Then she circled around to return to my side. I didn't see anyone. By the time I arrived, you were the only one here. I made a slight hum of acknowledgement and followed the crimson trail to lie down and try stretching out my limbs, even though they wouldn't line up perfectly with the bloodstain. Brom floated over and watched as I let my eyes slowly close. Once that call from decades ago sounded again, Helhest would open her eyes once more. So here, Helhest finds the scene of her own death. She puts together the traces and is wondering if Grom had any additional information on her killer. She receives a negative response and lays down to recreate the scene before the entry ends. I think this showcases an almost obsession with putting things together for Helhest, solving the puzzle, and combining this with known aspects of her personality, it makes it very clear that this isn't something she's going to let go of until she knows everything she can about it. Mail. Sender: Donovan 17. Recipient: Helhest. Subject: I assume you'll need this. I recorded a copy of the transmission you received in the lab and have attached it here. As for the local file, I've already deleted it as it was occupying precious storage space. P.S. I did not view the contents. P.P.S. Next time, do not fiddle with my systems. Attachment: transmission recording.mp4. Sender: Helhest. Recipient: Felwinter. Subject: comparison of the recording's biometric data. Esteemed Lord Felwinter, as we discussed a few days ago, I exported and compared the recorded faces of Marasov and the Witch Queen. The biometrics are a 100% match. This means that biometrically speaking, the White Queen is indeed a young Marasov. I've attached the data. Please help me confirm it. If my findings are correct, then would that imply the White Queen was created as a copy of Marasov? Or perhaps she was part of Marasov's consciousness all along? But who would be capable of acquiring such a thing? Unless the Queen herself agreed to it? I feel this mystery is growing larger and larger. Attachment: biometric data. Sender: Felwinter. Recipient: Helhest. Subject: blank. Nothing's wrong with the data. Ask Scory. She might know something. Sender: Scory. Recipient: Helhest. Subject: to Helhest. I received your message, dear. Thank you for explaining the entire matter so clearly. Actually, I've met a few Outreacher pioneers who came to Earth from the Reef over the past few decades, and they made similar claims speaking with me. I was always hesitant to make a decision though, and so I was never able to help them. I admire and respect your courage in making a choice. It's thanks to you that a connection between Earth and the Reef has been made possible. I wish to keep that courage burning bright. Just as you hypothesized, a member of the Outreachers once told me that the White Queen is, in fact, a part of Marasov's consciousness. When she ascended the throne, Marasov's standpoints and apprehensions had already seen changes, so she made a copy of her own mind in case she might one day need it. It is because of her worries that she has wavered on matters of the Reef's diplomacy. Back then, the Outreachers' core members, unable to contain themselves and desperate, stole that copy of her consciousness and raised it to become the White Queen. They maintain that she is the more idealistic Mara of the past, capable of leading both the Reef and Earth into a better future. This is why Mara is so anxious to get her back. She cannot let that copy of her own mind wander the outside world and further leave her grasp. To ensure the White Queen's safety, the Outreachers spared no effort in covering their tracks once they left Haven. I tried investigating, but to no avail. Mara and her crows will not rest though, and they may very well start their own investigation with the last person to have contact with the White Queen. that being you, Helhest. These loose ends will not be tied up so simply. You must maintain constant vigilance. I hope this letter could be of help to you. So this covers some theories around Mara and the White Queen, discussed by Helhest as well as the Iron Lords Felwinter and Scory. The White Queen, as we understand it, is allowed to exist by Mara for whatever reason, seemingly making use of this copy as a chess piece rather than moving to actually silence or destroy it. It seems like she could have realistically done this at any point in time. Either that or something unknown is preventing it, based on the current situation. Blessings. Subject, reply, help. Recipient, Helhest. Sender, Wolf. Thanks for the message, and pass along my best wishes to your friend for me, yeah? I looked through the list of gifts you included. I think 2 of them could work in a pinch, but the other 18 aren't exactly suitable birthday gifts. If you ask me though, I don't think you need to be so nervous. It's just a birthday party, you know? Even if you show up empty-handed, I'm sure just giving a toast with a thoughtful blessing would show that you care. Just in case, I had Zev search the Haven forums for some popular well wishes and attach them here. I haven't had the chance to look at them myself, but I hope they help you. Attachment: 88 blessings for new lights. Subject, reply, help. Recipient, Wolf. Sender, Helhest. Apologies, I'm only now seeing this message. When she was looking over it, Grom thought it was spam and accidentally put it into the trash folder. Thank you for your help, Wolf, but as for the attachment's contents, I can't help but find them a bit questionable. Based on 10 to the power root simulations, the aircraft you've selected has a 0.0007% chance of crashing. For your safety, we've enabled the emergency oxygen mask preloading program. Is this supposed to be a blessing for a safe journey? Grom says it sounds more like it belongs in some Noah Corp's flight insurance ads. Heart rate analysis indicates your risk of organ failure this year has decreased by 8% compared with the previous year, and the downward trend has weakened. This is certainly worthy of celebration. I see this one is labeled as a birthday blessing. Maybe it's popular among younger people? It does seem very quirky, after all. I tried reading the first 20 earnestly, but I wasn't able to find anything worth using. Grom has demanded I stop reading this file and asked me to pass along this message. Stop downloading files from disreputable websites, Zev. So this is less of a serious lore drop and more of a fun interaction that showcases the difference in how Wolf and Zev do things versus Helhest and Grom. It highlights that Wolf and Zev tend to be much less serious and they tend to just wing things, versus Grom and Helhest seem to very carefully think through what they're doing. They're very analytical and very serious. Recording. I'm going to place a trigger warning here for strong violence as well as suicide. You have been warned. A locally saved recording. The camera turns on, showing nothing but black at first. Eventually, it focuses on 2 figures. All throughout the video, the frame moves up and down, as if the camera is floating in midair, unable to find a focal point. A second later, a male voice is heard crying out from a figure crawling on the ground. How did you find me? Did she send you? The standing figure speaks with a familiar female voice. Please, calm down and tell me your name. I'll help you. You're lying. It's a trap. It's all a trap. Wait, what trap? I know you. You're Corella. She sent you. What are you talking about? Who is she? She's the one pulling all the strings. I can't escape her. Neither can you. Why does she want to capture you? Because I've lost my usefulness, and you'll be in the same boat soon. The standing figure kneels down and reaches out as if to grasp the other's shoulder, but he howls as he rolls and crawls away. Don't take me. Stop doing her bidding. You'll end up just like me. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, just calm down and return to Felwinter Peak with me. You'll be safe there, I promise. Safe? Yes, no matter who is hunting you down, I won't let you die. Die? Is that her reward? What? You know as well as I do that what's waiting for me is 100 times worse than death. The figure on the ground convulses and huddles, his right hand pulling down at his clothes. The camera violently shakes, and there's an anxious female voice coming from above. Helhest! The kneeling figure hurriedly stretches out a hand and tries to stop him, but it's too late. All she can do is watch with wide eyes as the curled up man before her pulls a gun from his clothes, stuffs the barrel into his mouth, and pulls the trigger. Bang. The camera trembles as it hurries over. It circles the man's bloodied head twice before the female voice from above speaks. What do we do? The trail's gone cold. There's a lengthy pause, then the kneeling figure stands. Let's go, Grom. We'll find a new lead eventually. The camera shakes again, and a second later, it cuts to black. So at this point, Helhest has been risen and offers aid to an unknown man. He seems to recognize her for her crow identity, Corella, and chooses that death is a more merciful end than the life he perceives for his future. Helhest's reaction to this is surprised, but also cold and detached. She doesn't seem heavily mentally affected by this action, at least not immediately. I would love to read the other ones for you guys. However, for some reason, my complete strikes is not working and not progressing no matter how many strikes I complete on Helhest. So I will read those in a future update. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching another one of my videos or subscribing if you want to be updated on that stuff. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching some of my other stuff. I haven't done very much in terms of like lore stuff, but if you guys want more of that, let me know in the comments and comment down below, Pumpkin the Cat, if you've watched up to this point. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.